It's time to look at the carburetor. And by look at, I don't mean repair or make adjustments. What I am going to do is change this myriad of hosing. A lot of them are so old that they've either split or corroded or just turned soft. I mean, this one is falling to bits. So that this whole system on this carburetor has not been plumbed in. It's been disconnected from the vacuum system by the previous owner. The carburetor works-ish. Things like the auto choke are and the idle speed's a bit high, and starting's a bit of an issue. It starts up first time, but then within a few seconds the RPM drop down and it starts getting very lumpy, and you have to keep your foot on the pedal just to keep it running. Once you've done a couple of 100 meters on it, it all sorts itself out, but it's not right. And the fact that the Pierburg relies on so many systems here that are vacuum driven, the fact that it's not plumbed into the vacuum system is of great concern. But the MOT is overdue on this car, and theoretically it passed its MOT last year with the previous owner. With this system the way it is, because it can't be working because there are too many holes in the hoses. So my plan is to change all the hoses in preparation for messing around with it when it passes its MOT, or if it fails its MOT because of emissions. So yeah, so effectively today is just a clean and a hose change. The other thing that needs attention is the coolant operated auto choke mechanism. Now I don't even know if this is working, but it definitely isn't working now, because when I took it apart, when I took the hose off the bottom here, this was in the hose itself, and it's not a new brake, it's an old brake, so I think the hose was just about sealing on there, which if I was to replace this system, just this unit here is 100 quid straight off the bat. So if the wax static portion of this unit is still operative, then I'm going to repair this. And I was playing around, I was looking in my my spares bits for my model aircraft, and I've got some aluminium tubing, and I was curious to know whether this would fit in the internal diameter, and as it happens it's a really tight but firm fit in that plastic piece. So the plan is to cut a length of this tubing, roughen up the outside, smear some thin epoxy onto it, and insert this into the unit, and then bonding it with epoxy, and that should, in theory, have us sorted. The other option is, if I can't get this carburetor working any sense, then it means I might have to start looking at a Weber carburetor, but they're not as good as the Pierburgs. When the Pierburgs work well, they are like top of the tree when it comes to carburetors. When they're not working well, they're a pain in the arse. Quick tour, and I've very limited understanding of these. We obviously have the temperature driven wax static choke unit, which has a whole bunch of linkages in there. We have a temperature operated coil spring, so bimetallic spring unit, which operates the choke flap as well. We have this unit here, which I think operates the second flap of the second choke unit. By choke I mean the second venturi. So under heavy loads that opens the second venturi. We have something called a 3-point unit, which I think in an automatic, which mine is, this is actually called a 4-point unit, and this, depending on the engine load, increases or decreases the RPM by pushing on this lever here. And again, I think the previous owner has adjusted this to the point where it could never function the way it is. Yeah, and then what else have we got? There are various electrically operated valves as well, and do not ask me what they do. Do not ask me, because I have no idea. And then you've got the usual stuff like you know, solenoid fuel cut-off valve. You've got your fuel pump for when you stamp on the pedal and want some extra petrol. This I have no idea what that is. I think it's a fuel return something or other. Anyway, it's a complicated mess, this carburetor, and like I say, if I can't get any sense out of it after, if it passes its MOT, then we may well be looking at a £400 Weber carburetor. But to get this rebuilt and turned back to factory, it would be 400 quid anyway, so decisions. The other thing I wish to do is to clean it, because it is covered in all sorts of fur and gunk, and this mating surface here has to match the gasket, which is obviously brand new, and this actually looks like there's enough corrosion there that it might actually have had an air leak. It's pretty furry, so that's going to need a really good clean up. I might have to get the wet and dry paper on that. It's pretty horrible. Anyway, first job, try and remove this. It'll either unscrew easily or it's going to be a bastard.
Eventually.
Apologies for the long-winded ramble just now. What's the chances this one's going to snap? Or is it already snapped? Okay, that's good. That's something. These screws are so furry, it's unbelievable. There isn't a hope in hell they're going to come out. Actually, okay, Andy, let's see how good this stuff really is. If this doesn't come off, I'm in trouble. Oh, that one's broken. Didn't like the sound of that crunch underneath. I was going to put up a fight. I was just about to get the impact driver out, which could be catastrophic, when I thought I'd give it one more twist and it's broken away, so that saved me having to get the big guns out. Again, I must reiterate, I'm not a pierburg specialist, but I'm pretty sure that the pin in the centre of that is supposed to be able to push this piece here, which acts on a linkage. But if it does, it's stronger than I am, because that is not moving at all when I push on it. So I'm just going to have a poke around to see if that's gummed up or whether we're knackered. Okay, penetrating oil and a wooden stick. And we now have a free moving mechanism. I have a mug of boiling water. This being wax static, when it heats up to the running temperature, that little pin in the middle is supposed to come out further. I don't have the stats as to how far it's supposed to come out, but I'm sure we can find out. Let's see if anything happens first of all. Okay, it's been just over a minute and something's definitely happening, or happened. It's not completely non-functional. I'm just trying to fish this out. Apparently it's going to be 100 degrees. But you can definitely see that that has extended from what it was before. Definitely protrudes quite a bit further. In fact, I would say there's a good 6, 7, 8 millimeters. So I'm confident that that is doing what it's supposed to do. So I think that's worth repairing and putting back on the vehicle, because like I say, they're 100 quid straight off the bat. I'll let that cool down and then I'm going to clean it up. So here's the plan. Aluminium tube, broken bit of piping, nice snug fit on there. The idea is to cut it to length so that it's just goes in like so. Now I think there are bits of plastic missing because there are a few gaps, but the tube effectively sleeves that. And because it'll be cut flush, it should just flow straight into the unit. And once the pipe's up all the way, that should cover that as well. I shall mark where to cut. Little park zone, little special, brilliant little tool. Certainly beats Aldi, Andy. Right, I'm going to let that set up before I fix it back onto the vehicle. Much like the other gasket faces, I'm just going to use a single edge razor blade and get rid of all this crusty crap, trying to avoid getting it down the bore of the carburetor. I'm going to take my time and just clean this back as best as I can to give us the best fighting chance of getting a good seal. The primary reason for having the carburetor here on the bench was to replace these hoses, and I'm starting to look at how many there are. I'm wondering if I've got 2 lots of this, but even so I'm beginning to wonder whether I've got enough. The only hose I could get was braided hose, which I'm hoping has a similar internal diameter to that of the this plastic rubber hose, but I'm beginning to have my doubts whether it is. The only way to really tell would be to cut one of these hoses. And this one is pretty badly perished, so this could well be one of our victims. What else? These are all really badly perished, so I'm going to do them one at a time. Okay, internally the diameter looks about the same, so yeah, we're good. We can use the braided hose, that shouldn't be a problem. I guess these aren't sharp enough for the job. Hope these aren't brittle. Okay, as I'm struggling and don't want to break some of these plastic unions, I'm going to use a little smear of red rubber grease on the unions. I don't know if that's permissible, but it does protect rubber. I'm not going to get it in the pipes, just on the plastic pieces. Hopefully that will help the rubber pipes slip on. It seems to feel better. It certainly lubricates the rubber pipes going back on.
12 seconds later.
Okay, so that's all the lines at the back of the carburetor have been changed, and I've checked the schematic to make sure that they are all in the right place and no one's messed around with them in the past, but they look to be correct. And given the state of some of these old vacuum hoses, it's no wonder the previous owner had issues with this carburetor. So that took over a metre of braided hose, which means I probably haven't got enough braided hose to finish the job completely. But I suspect we might have enough just to do, I don't know, touch and go, maybe. We might just have enough, we'll see. I'm going to attack this lot now, and I'll bring you back when I've done that. I've changed all the pipe work on this side of the carburetor as well, and again, compared to the stuff that came off, this is infinitely better. I've got down to this, which is a one-way check valve, and it certainly does sort of function, but I don't think it functions as well as it should do. Like, for example, you can blow through it this way, but if you suck, you still get a little bit through, and I don't know if they're 100% check valves and should stop it dead, or whether there's always some bleed. Something I'm going to have to look into. I might just see if I can replace that and be done with it, and then we know that that's not an issue. Yeah, anyway, now that that's done and the epoxy has dried, not fully cured but dried on this piece, I'm going to replace this now. Excellent. So whilst that is not fully cured yet, by tomorrow or the day after, that should be enough. And to be honest, it's not going to have coolant running through it for a good few days yet. So yeah, pleased with that.
The very next evening.
Now let's try not to lose the clip. This is going to be the fun bit. Go for an assistant at this point. No, you don't. Okay. Two started, three started. Seven Newton meters. New flange arrived. A new replacement hose. Right, welcome to Mechanics by Candlelight. Daylight has almost completely faded now. So we fitted the new flange. All the hoses have been checked and fitted, and either new or old Jubilee clips secured and checked. All the electrical cables have been connected and checked. I think it's about as far as I can go for tonight. Obviously I still need to fit the airbox. Also in better daylight conditions I intend to go through everything once more and check that everything's connected. Oh, and the fuel hose is connected as well. So yeah, it's too dark tonight to really continue. But I'm quite pleased, carburetor's in, and as far as I'm aware everything is connected up. So we're getting close now. Oh, I'm also going to do an oil change and fill the coolant as well before we do any turning over of the engine. A dark and stormy night in Hampshire. Adios.